Everybody, and welcome back to another week with the Five Guys Online. Gentlemen, how are you doing? Yeah. I mean, we got Christmas going in full blast. Dr. Pickett has the tree up. He has on his Burberry scarf. He has on his Santa Claus sweater. He is ready for the holiday season.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We hear you loud.
Okay, there we go.
No, it's good. I'm nursing some sinus issues and a little under the weather. So sorry, everybody.
Again, if you drank my
I'll pass it to
immunity
you.
tea,
I'm trying Zach's elixir.
I drink this on a regular basis, and it helps keep me healthy throughout this holiday season.
Did that recipe come from Amanda Seals by chance?
No, it wasn't Amanda Seals' recipe. My recipe came from a former boss. My former boss, who is from Jamaica, gave me this recipe when I had like a sinus infection. And the next day, the infection was pretty much knocked out, and it just got better. And so I take it now right before ever getting sick, and I really take it on a regular, like just even when I'm not sick, because it's just, I know it helps my sinuses. So what wasn't Amanda Seals tea?
I'm not sure. I just know that it's supposed to help combat 5G, which causes COVID-19.
I will not be drinking the Amanda Seals tea. So I am, really glad to be back. I miss you guys. I want to thank everyone who's watching, who's been very supportive of me and my family as we have, dealt with what we consider the loss of a mom, but really the transition from life to everlasting life of our mother. So I want to thank everyone out there. I thank my family members who are watching. And with that being said, let's jump right into a series of really good topics. And I just hope that, and I love you more. And I really hope that, this week is as good as the last week, because, gentlemen, you guys held it down in my absence. And in honor of my moderator role, I have some whoopee hair in. But, I dare not say I'm whoopee, because all of you are excellent and able to moderate with no qualms. That's what I'm saying. Good work. But many people out here are saying it's not good work in regards to the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. This is a news story that has truly really taken over. It's dominating the news cycle, and many people are anxiously awaiting the results of this trial. Whose topic was this? I forgot.
Was it mine?
Take it away.
I don't know. Y'all not just sending random stuff now to stay off of Vince's shopping block. So anyway, I guess I'll talk about Kyle Rittenhouse and his shenanigans and all his hoopla. So Kyle Rittenhouse apparently decided that he wanted to play police during the Kenosha riots back, I think, was it last summer? It's been a minute at this point. But anyway, his mom put him in a car with his AR and took him across state lines to Wisconsin, where he was serving as a security guard over a lot that apparently no one asked him to secure. Anyway, in the midst of this, he ends up shooting three people. Two of them are killed and one of them is injured. But now it's time for his day in court. And he's sitting up in there weeping and wailing, sobbing, crying out to Jesus. Not a tear has fallen yet. This is what Claudia Jordan would call New York's inner cry. So I'm just wondering, well, for one, his attorneys were seeking a mistrial, which I think was not granted. But I'm wondering, how are we feeling about these white tears, or rather the lack thereof? And then also, who's following the case, and how are y'all feeling about it in general, guys?
I have been following the case. And I'm going to probably offer a different perspective, or a unique perspective, in the fact that, and the reality is, this is an issue or a situation that really is beyond my control. It's beyond all of our control. There's not a whole lot that we can do about it. And we are very likely to be disappointed with some of the results. Kyle Rittenhouse is facing 7 different charges, one of which was thrown out of court today. He is going to be found guilty of something, I hope. I have full faith that he will be found guilty of something, but I do not think he will be found guilty of the actual crimes that he's committed. And again, there will be outrage and outcry. But at the same time, people, that we're going to have outrage and outcry, we're going to turn right around and talk about what the Democrats aren't doing for Black people in America. Right? Now, let me tell you the connection. These issues continuously get appealed, and the court process, the judicial process, is a function of our governmental system. So we put people like Donald Trump in office, and he has the ability to appoint judges. This is the consequence of those Republican actions. So when we don't vote Democrat or vote in our own best interest, regardless of not being happy about gas prices, which really have no result from the president, this is what you get. You have a racial judiciary sitting up. We have laws put in place that uphold racist policies and that allow vigilante murderers like Kyle Rittenhouse to get off. And that's the danger in what we're doing when we're running 2 different narratives. We're all pissed off about Kyle Rittenhouse, but yet and still we're mad talking about Kamala Harris ain't doing what we want her to do. And it is counterproductive to the progress of America truly being America for all. And that's what I believe, although I know many people aren't going to get it or appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Zach, wholeheartedly. It'll be extremely unfortunate if he, gets out of this entire situation scotch-free, because there's a lot of things. There's so many holes in this story, just off of principle, just off the basis. Let's just talk about first base really quickly. In the state of Wisconsin, it is illegal for a 17-year-old to have a gun. Okay? That is state law. Not only that, he didn't even have a permit, because why? He's not legal. So just based off of those 2 counts alone, you already in the wrong. And then to envelop what pours under the umbrella after that is you killing people. You killing people knowing that, maybe not even knowing that, again, in the state of Wisconsin, it is illegal for you to be 17 years old, not have a permit, and then therefore not have a gun. And on top of that, you're already killing people. If he gets off just scotch-free, just off of the basis of things, I think that even just goes beyond the systematic, spill that you just said, Zach. I just feel like that's beyond just racial things. It's just like the law in general just sucks, bro. Like, it just wholeheartedly sucks right off the cuff. And then another thing that really intrigued me, when Kyle Rittenhouse said that he was sent there to protect the community. And I remember, after the Atlanta protest, when I went the morning after, the whole riot happened, we were down there with mops and brooms, and, we were cleaning up glass, and, we were praying and, doing all this kumbaya stuff for the city. Kyle, you weren't doing that. How you sent to protect and to clean and wipe off graffiti, which is what you said with the AR-15? I don't understand. So just with things that he's already just spilling out in him being on the stand or what have you, is like, bro, like, if he gets out of this scotch-free after digging himself in a hole, it's frustrating.
I just wanted to add, Vince, I don't know if you were aware, but they dropped that gun charge. He dismissed the gun charge, saying that the law was so confusingly written that it could be interpreted to mean that a 17-year-old can openly carry firearms as long as they're not short barrel rifles. So the judge has already dismissed the gun charge.
Yeah, and the problem that I have even more so with this case, that I'm a little pissed at the fact that this mother is actually not potentially being charged with accessory to murder. Because I wouldn't necessarily say she was accomplice, but I would go as far as to say that she was an accessory to murder. Why? You were an accessory before. There's a such thing as accessory before and accessory after. An accessory before means that you know what the person's going to do. You assist the person in carrying out their act. You may not necessarily do it, but you assist the person in carrying out their act, and you did nothing willfully to stop it. That's accessory to murder before. And this ma'am drove her 17-year-old son across the lines you cannot say you with the gun, you knew he had the gun. You cannot say that you did not know what he was going to do. And if by chance he murdered someone, you are an accessory to murder. And so the fact I'm dumbfounded that they are absolutely not putting her on trial as well. And if they don't, you know, that's another whole conversation in itself. But that's the thing, that's the other thing that's pissing me off. And beyond that, that judge is absolutely horrendous. And he should have recused himself long time ago. So yeah, but it goes back to what Zach was saying. It's ridiculous that these are the people that put in place, but that mother needs to be on the chopping block just as much.
I was sorry. No, I was just going to throw in. I think the case started off wrong. First off, they said that the individuals who were killed couldn't be identified as victims. They could be referred to as looters, as rioters, but not victims. And so they threw that out at the beginning. But then also, I don't know if I necessarily want to put politics in this, as Zach mentioned, and I understand where you're going with it as far as the government and people who elect the judges and appoint judges and stuff like I do. But I think, and this is my own Pollyanna blinders on sometimes, that I hope that oftentimes we could be optimistic about the justice system, even though I know it hasn't always been in favor of us. And this is a white man who killed two white people, but also injured another white person based off of another. So I think I'm optimistic about the whole thing, based off the killing of a black person. So
here's the thing. These people were at a Black Lives Matter protest in defense of a black man who was gunned down. And to a white supremacist racist like Kyle Rittenhouse and his ugly mama, those men were even lesser of value than the black man that was shot in the back. Okay, that's how they view it. They view these white men as race traitors and as the bigger problem. So it absolutely was a racial element to what Kyle Rittenhouse did. There was absolutely a racial element to what his mama did. And there's also absolutely a racial element to how the judge is carrying out this court case. What you have happening is you have the limiting of language and certain things that would truly paint a real picture for those juries, for the jury. And they can only make decisions based on the preponderance of evidence presented. And when the judge blocks and doesn't allow certain things into evidence, or certain things to be seen, or certain types of language to be used, you know how you're going to be swaying that jury. So as much as we want to say the American justice system is going to work, I am inclined, and I agree, it will work the way it was designed to work, but the way it was designed to work is a way that upholds white supremacy. That is the problem. And I have never in my life said I wanted to defund the police or abolish the police. I have always said what I want to do is reform the American justice system and improve law enforcement. That's what needs to happen. And that is absolutely a political necessity and has a political element to it. You can't take it away. That's how it works.
And to add to that, Zach, Rittenhouse was also photographed meeting his quote-unquote fans, the radical right, if you will, holding up the white supremacist sign. So you already walking into this. Like I said, you're digging, you have dug yourself into this hole. And to Zach's point, the judge isn't even allowing a lot of those photographs, if any of them, to come into play during the system. I mean, during the entire court process. And then to Dr. Pickett's point, I don't understand how the judge was even able to oversee this entire trial when your ringtone, your cell phone ringing multiple times during the entire case. And then ABC did like a whole little, nitpick, case by case, trial by trial, moment by moment thing. He got the same ringtone as the same song that Trump was coming out to during his campaign rallies. And now they're saying that could be, a potential dog whistle, if you will, to the radical right and white supremacists or what have you. So yeah. I get where both Zachs are saying 100%, optimistically, but considering what the catalyst was for this trial, it does sort of lean to that, the racial aspect.
One Zach is right and one Zach is wrong, as it is every week.
I love being optimistic as well, but this case just seemed like a sham from the jump.
Not me.
And again, I want to firmly believe that I'm trying to get my head to stay down. I firmly want to believe that the American justice system is going to work, and it very well may surprise me, but I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening in this case, and I also don't see it happening in the case of the McMichaels and what's that man's name?
The other white supremacists.
But what we're not going to do, and this is a real issue that I also have, is that I'm hearing it's constantly in the media talking about the Ahmaud Arbery trial. Ahmaud Arbery is not on fire. Ahmaud Arbery is gone. He is dead and gone. There is no Ahmaud Arbery trial. And so I'm so angry at the media talking about the Ahmaud Arbery trial and then showing pictures of Ahmaud Arbery. He should not be the focus of this trial. The focus of the trial is these killers. These murderers and these South Georgia murderers are the focus, but yet and still we don't even know their name. I know the man goes by Bryan Roddy, but I don't get his last name. But they are the focus. McMichaels and Roddy, they're the focus, not Ahmaud Arbery. And it's unfortunate. Zach Thomas, tell us about this.
So as we know, this trial has been going on as well, but it made recent headlines when one of the attorneys, Kevin Go, asked the judge Timothy Walsman to actually keep Black pastors from coming inside the church, not the church, but the courthouse. They said, we don't want any more Black pastors coming in here. We argue having high-profile members of the African-American community in the courtroom, and it pressures and intimidates the jury. And so he's asking that we keep only one Black pastor. Who was there was Al Sharpton, but he said we had Jesse Jackson, and Jesse Jackson had never been there until today. And he asked today that Jesse Jackson be kicked out. And then he tried to go back and say, oh, what if it was used like a Kentucky Fried Chicken reference? What if it was the Colonel walking in here with a white head mask on and the judge stopped him right there? One thing I must say about this is the judge is on point with this one. But I wanted to kind of throw out to the group and to the guys, like, what are your thoughts about this? As we know, with these kind of cases, a lot of Black figureheads and icons do come into support. Do we think that influences a jury or a trial?
Not one that's all white with one Black person.
I was just about to say, on point with what? On point with what?
I don't think it influences whatsoever. But I will say, first of all, I'm with you, Zach. I appreciate this particular judge because they try to ask for a mistrial, and he said no. I mean, cut it out. The one thing I will say that I pray does not happen. This is the one thing I pray does not happen when it comes to Black pastors and things of nature. One of the things that I don't want to see happen is that I'm all for, Jesse Jackson's been on the field and Al Sharpton's been on the field. But what I don't want to see, because I've actually started hearing some names of some other Black pastors who are talking about coming down and going down there. What I don't want to do is start seeing that some of these Black pastors who you don't know to be socially conscious and those who are doing stuff to do things to get their name out and be in the limelight and get in the picture, because that then begins to push what I believe the narrative backwards. And some of these names I'm hearing are not social activist pastors. Now, one I have heard was Jamal Bryan. Jamal Bryan, thank you.
Now Jamal is social active.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why I named his name, because one thing I can say about Jamal Bryan is before he even got to New Birth and everything, he was doing a lot of this stuff in Baltimore and across the nation. So for me, I don't have any problem with socially active and engaging pastors who are doing stuff, but those pastors who are looking to just get their names out and just kind of be in the picture, that I think that pushes the narrative. I think maybe if you want to form a coalition outside of the courthouse to prove a point and say all Black pastors are going to come together and make a statement, that's one thing. But I think trying to prove a point to kind of give yourself a little bit of kind of a push is a no for me. But I love the fact that, again, that this judge has said, listen, I hear what y'all saying, but we better have that today. I pray that this judge continues to keep this energy, because that's what this case is going to need.
Mm-hmm.
I also just think it's important. Like, I know I hear what you're saying, DeAndre, but also cases like this sometimes in the past have gone swept under the rug for a lack of publicity. And so any means of getting publicity at a case like this is important. For instance, would we have known that they had an issue if there were just local Black pastors who were there? Would we have known if it wasn't someone of the magnitude of a Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton? That's why it is, headline worthy. And the one thing that I think has brought us to the place that we are now, we're still nowhere near where we need to be, but social media and mobilizing people from across the nation has helped small towns like this town that this is happening in get the national and international attention that they need in order for justice to be served. So I don't care who take their Black ass down there, as long as it's a unified front that they're putting on and that we're sending a clear message that no matter where you are, if there's an injustice anywhere, then we know that it's an injustice everywhere, and we're going to do our part to make sure that everyone knows about it.
And I want to add clarity that even though the media chose to make it a Black pastor or a Black clergy issue, I saw several headlines talking about Black pastor, Black clergy. This is a universal clergy issue. You have interfaith leaders from a number of different religious backgrounds coming together in solidarity around this case. Now, I don't want that to be missed or to be,
But it wasn't the media who said it. It was the attorney said how many Black pastors we're going to have.
No, I know that, but then the media ran with the headline, and that became the soundbite, and that became the news story. But I don't want the fact that you have people of different races and of different faiths coming together in this case, as has been the course of American history when we have injustice that has gone on. Not only do we have injustice happening possibly down in Brunswick, but we may have some injustice happening still at our historically Black colleges and universities. Vince, tell us about it.
My Lord, we got to keep our HBCUs lifted. There are some things that are happening right now. And two recent HBCUs have reached, mainstream headlines. One of being actually is Tuskegee. Their marching band members are threatening to strike. They haven't really been performing a lot this season due to unqualified staff and a lack of funding. They feel like they have just been shattered on and have made their demands known to their administrators rather, and nothing really has come about of it. So they're definitely still on the fence. And then another one that has made huge headway is, of course, the Howard University. It's in one of the dormitories, if you will, one of the not study halls, dormitories, whatever.
Blackburn.
The students have been going, Blackburn, there it is. I was looking for the name of it. The students are extremely unhappy with the living conditions. They find that they are unsafe. Underneath those unsafe living conditions, you've had a lot of mold that has been growing underneath the beds. One student mentioned that the mold has been getting on her clothes and her shoes. There have been reports with like mass insects, rats, infestation, pipes bursting. Students are beginning to cough up blood. And now a lot of students are sleeping in the cafeteria, sleeping bags. And of course, it started to get colder in Washington, D.C. This protest has been going on for a month. And apparently, because I just did some more research on it, like about 3-4 hours ago, some agreement has happened today. But the Howard University hasn't released that verbiage or what have you on what the agreement is or what have you. So I just wanted to spin the question out to the guys, like, what's going on with our HBCUs? Do you think it's a lack of funding? Is it bad management / administration? And with the extreme amounts of money it costs to go to like many of these colleges, many of these HBCUs, like the one girl was saying, I'm paying $5,000 a semester and I got to fight with rats. Like, make it make sense, So where does the onus lie? I'm not trying to knock our HBCUs down. I'm with the fam. I know a lot of us are products of HBCUs or what have you, but where does the onus lie?
And them rats ain't to be played with in DC. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. That second thing you said, that administration and that institution, at this current moment, because of the fact of the matter is it is the responsibility of that administration to provide an environment that's conducive to for their students to actually learn. And if they're actually not utilizing the funding that it should be happening, hence one of the reasons, and I hate to use this way, but that's one of the reasons, mismanagement of funds, is why one of our major institutions here in the city of Atlanta went down the drain, because of the fact there was mismanagement of funding. And so people continuously using the federal government, the Biden administration, all those other administrations to talk about the issues of happening in these HBCUs. I think that's unfair. You have to hold onus. I said this once and I say it again. If I have somebody come stay at my house, at the end of the day, you come and stay at my house. If you don't pay the rent that month, I can't. If you don't pay me for rent this month, I can't say, oh, because you didn't pay me rent, it's your fault. No, when they come and ask me for that mortgage, they want to know, well, where's your money? Because it's your responsibility. If the federal government is not providing those funding, it's still on you to make sure that you do right by those students to make sure they have the resource that they need. So until these presidents and until these administrations start taking notice, that's going to be the issue. And Howard should be ashamed of themselves from the get-go, because again, they took alumni off off the board. They took the student votes off the board. And so now you have taken, you took administration, you took teachers, alumni, and student votes off the board. So now what has occurred is now you have a group of people who don't have a real investment in this institution making decisions for this institution. That's where the problem is going to lie.
And those are some of the demands that the students had, and they were upheld today. It was 4 of them, I want to say, and I think those were 2 of them. But then also no repercussions or retaliation for them protesting based off their grades and stuff like that. But then also was the adequate housing. I think a lot of the issues, and you mentioned a lot of it, Darius, DeAndre, I'm sorry, I'm going through. But a lot of the issues is that now that we're at these HBCUs, they do a lot of things that are different from the PWIs. And one of the things that they do is they outsource a lot of their departments, such as housing. And they're not holding those individuals accountable. So it's not Howard who is managing the housing. It's an outside facility or company that's managing the housing up on that campus. And that's not what should be happening. And that's why a lot of students are disappointed, because they're paying all this money to this outside company and the company is not upholding their bargain. And so I think there needs to be some revaluations of these contracts with these outsourcing companies that they're utilizing as well.
And shout out to Tuskegee University for also having the wherewithal to say, you know what, we deserve quality education. And so the fact of the matter is that they said that we are not going to perform. You're going to give us a band director who has credentials. You're going to give us, you're going to give us what we deserve. If we're spending money. So this is a different situation.
Yeah, give us the background. You and Vince, give us that background. We talked about Howard, but we didn't talk about Tuskegee. I know there's another, a protest going. I can't talk about it. I was told you better not talk about it. But I definitely want to know about give us a Tuskegee background for our viewers who may not know that background.
Vince, you want to take it? You said me. So the students at Tuskegee University actually, the band students actually wrote a letter to the administration because of the fact that they're stating that one, their uniforms are horrible. They have had some of the oldest uniforms since forever. The band directors are actually not quality band directors, and they're not credentialed to the point where they believe that they're receiving the quality education that they deserve. And so what they said was, until you provide us a band director and a band director that can actually give us what we need, until you provide us a curriculum that actually makes us competitive across, and once we leave here, and once you provide us with, again, resources like uniforms that actually are not old as dirt, we do not deserve to march. We're not going to march on that field representing an institution that doesn't care about us. And so, especially when you are a music major, if you're a music major at these institutions, and you are wanting to create and you're about to go forth and be some of the teachers who are going to educate the next minds in music, you want to make sure you have everything that you need to be able to be successful to teach these other students. And if you're not getting that, from you, then yes, you deserve to make sure that you protest and say, you provide me the best education possible. Because again, you're paying for that. That's why you go to college. That's why you go to enhance your skills. And so Tuskegee, I stand with them on this one. And I pray that there are some people who continue to back them. Some of these alum who are part of that music program. Hope they come back and back them. But I believe, Vince, you can probably give some more insight to that.
And I also want to shout out Tuskegee Band as well as their SGA, because a lot, and this is just me, high school, college, or what have you, when you do, or if you are involved in SGA, it's a lot of just the performative part of college or what have you. But the SGA at Tuskegee is actually like funneling a lot of the demands and the complaints, and are standing with the marching band and are protesting with the marching band and are wanting to initiate and push this agenda with the administration. So shout out to the SGA and as well as many other students at Tuskegee University that is standing with that marching band. Me, myself, being a music major, I did it March once I left high school, but I was very, very involved with the March 100 at FAM or what have you in other capacities. I do know the importance of having just a qualified teacher, just as a musician. I think we all can attest to that, especially when you're in that position of higher learning, period, and you're paying all that money. And for the students to spot somebody that is ill-equipped, that speaks a lot on the students' part as well. So shout out for them for not, getting played down for the okie doke either.
Does anyone know who this, like the guy, the current director's background? Like, is he friends with? How did he get this job? It's definitely something to research and kind of find out, like, how did you get this hookup with these, with not having the right credentials and qualifications to get it? I think that's going to be good. I also want to say it's really disappointing to see that in a moment when so many Americans are looking very carefully and closely at attending historically Black college and university after all of the racial unrest that has happened in the country, to see Howard University care so little about how this impacts their actual reputation as an institution. Howard University is really seen in my eyes as one of the preeminent top 5 HBCUs and one of the top 10 universities in the United States of America. And for them to have such little regard for reputation, to me, is absolutely disappointing. Like, the way I view them has plummeted in my mind around this issue, because it was one thing for this to happen in August. It's November. These students were fighting and protesting back in August, and it's November and the issue is still not resolved. That shows an absolute lack of regard on the part of the university administration. Lydia said that this band came from Craigslist.
Well, he actually is a graduate of FAMU.
Right, I just read that.
Yeah, but I think one of the other reasons why they had a problem with him is because of the fact that his only credential education, first he only has a bachelor's, but his only work has been he was a high school band director for a brief moment, and he taught elementary music. And so when you're looking at quality, college band directors, especially the Tuskegee brand, because Tuskegee is a brand. When you're looking at the Tuskegee brand, they expect that you will provide, especially because I know the old director used to be Mr. Duncan. Mr. Duncan was the band director, and he was amazing. And so when you're following that, that is kind of they expect the same type, or if not better, that they had. And so I think that is the issue that some of the students are actually having at this current moment.
It is disappointing. Not only is what's happening at our HBCUs, Howard and Tuskegee, disappointing, but so too is how the continuous decline in the approval rating of the Biden and Harris administration. Now, this to me is getting, gentlemen, it's out of hand. Now, I think I've had this topic kind of presented and haven't gotten around to talking about it. I really want to know what you guys honestly feel, as well as the viewers, about this. And let me just talk about it. One thing that has been identified as a major issue as to why approval rating of the Biden-Harris administration is low is, of course, inflation. And I'm seeing lots of social media chatter and a lot of pointless websites like the Shade Room and Media Takeout talking about the increase in things like gas prices and goods, and putting the blame on the Biden administration without giving real context around why inflation exists. And this is a little very simple graphic that anyone can see that shows how inflation works. We have demand pool, where we have more goods and services being in demand. You can have something as simple as a TikTok come out that highlights Brussels sprouts, and all of a sudden the American people rush to buy Brussels sprouts. Then we have a shortage in Brussels sprouts, and the price of Brussels sprouts go up. Simple, easy to understand. Then we also have the cost pull approach or issue. When production costs increase, prices will also increase. And a number of things have led to production costs increasing, specifically COVID-19. Again, COVID-19 in the United States of America not being under control. Why is it not under control? I blame Republicans and conservatives. Maybe you blame someone else. That's my personal opinion on that one. And then we have when prices rise, wages rise too, in order to maintain living costs. We have had the economy stimulated. There's more money in American pockets. People are using that money to buy more goods, as they should, but it's also leading to inflation. All of that to say, I don't see this as a problem or the fault of the Biden-Harris administration, yet the American people do. Gentlemen, what do you think?
Zach, every president since Reagan in their first term have had this issue. This has been an issue of every president since their first term. Everything, we saw it when the first term of Bush, literally Reagan, Bush, Clinton, the other Bush, Obama, like we've seen this actually happen. So that's not the case. I think that this idea that the ratings are dropping is because of the fact that, you have a group of people, you got these, I hate to say this, but you still have these progressive leaders who the Biden and Harris administration still can't sell. And so a lot of you have the independents and you have these progressives who you cannot sell, to them right now. And so I think he's still doing great with his base, but you have a group of people who you cannot sell and you can't make everybody happy. Unfortunately, again, I say this all the time on this platform, until you give an alternative measure that can actually supersede what's being provided, stop complaining until you provide a legitimate program or legitimate outcome that can actually make a difference. And so that's where I think we're having a problem right now. And hello, Dawn.
And again, I get that, and I want to say, I knew somebody was going to say what you said, so I actually pulled some facts. And this is the presidential approval rating of presidents based on their first 261 days in office, exactly where, again, kind of where President Biden was when his ratings started to drop. I do want to emphasize that President Biden's ratings are still higher than President Trump's ratings were at this time, but we are approaching that low slowly but surely. And, with that being said, I think that I agree with you to a certain extent, DeAndre, but I also kind of want to counter and say that I think it's a false dichotomy to continuously put the blame on progressives, because that's not where all the blame lies. I want to see more blame put on Republicans and conservatives as well. Everyone is looking for the progressives to get on board with the Democrats for the good of America. And I do believe progressives should for the good of the Democratic Party. But I also want to see more Republicans who especially are in battleground states make the decisions that they made, like they made for the infrastructure bill, to do what's right by the American people. And I want to see the media tell the right story. The media is making a concerted effort to sway the American people in one direction, specifically against, I firmly believe, Vice President Kamala Harris, as we saw with this weekend's CNN article. And I think that's a real issue. I think that you have news sources like CNN wanting to get some of the conservative Republican money and that's out there, and they want to become seen as more balanced, and they're doing it by attacking this administration as opposed to telling real stories. And I want to see the Biden administration critiqued when they should be critiqued. But some of the things that they're saying and the way that they're shifting the narrative is, to me, inappropriate. And I think that's where the blame lies.
I see what you're saying, Zach. I just also feel that beyond party lines, in terms of just the media conversation, we all know that fear sells. And they're going to, broadcast and do whatever they need to do to just, again, just absorb people's fear and talk more and more and more stories just to get that whatever point across, just to get those ratings, that viewership, so on and so forth, just in regards to, again, playing on people's fears. For me, I'm looking at this in a more simpler aspect in terms of the inflation conversation. From what I can remember, after 9/11, when the Twin Towers were hit, of course, gas prices went up because of the oil situation happening with the Middle East. But then once America sort of got its footing back, then the gas prices went down. Every time we hit a huge hurricane, Harvey, Katrina, all these people, gas prices go up. And then as soon as the hurricane season doesn't even go down, that particular hurricane threat moves out of the region and everything is sort of quote unquote handled, then the gas prices go down. And so when you talk about us in a pandemic, we're still in the pandemic. The pandemic is not over. And you saw how long the downfall of the Trump era and on top of the Trump era, the COVID is happening. It's going to take us a minute to bounce back. Like United States of amnesia. If you just look at the past situations, this is unfortunately, it's inevitable. Yes, it's going to hurt our pockets. Yes, we may not get the opportunity to drive all across Atlanta and drive all across Georgia like we want to at this current time. But it's just it is what it is. I don't place fault on Biden or anything like that. It's just like this is what it is, y'all. This is what it is. And in Jesus' name, hopefully it can come back down, give or take however long it's supposed to take. But the fact is, those other situations ended. The pandemic is still going. And as long as this pandemic is going, these inflation prices are going to increase. Period. Drop the mic.
And even to this, and I even add to it, it's not to me necessarily about prices coming down. It's about wages going up. That is also a big part of the disconnect. We still don't have a living wage in this country, and we should. And we see the mass resignation having happened, and we're living through the mass resignation. We're going to continue to live through it because people now know their value and they know their worth. And these companies are fighting tooth and nail to not pay people what they're worth, to have the most profit that they can have so they can continue to fly to the moon and Mars and everywhere else that Jeff Bezos wants to go. So I just wanted to add that piece in. And it's only going to get worse, especially if people like Bill de Blasio has his way. Dr. Pickett, tell us what Bill de Blasio wants to do to America.
So as
New York, not America, New York.
It'll spread.
Which is sad.
It'll spread.
Unfortunately, Bill de Blasio, who only has a little over 2 months remaining in his term as mayor because of term limits, back in October made an announcement that he was looking to end gifted program for the elementary students. Many of us who understand know that they actually do testing in the elementary arena to determine if those students are tag eligible students. He currently has 70% of Black and brown students in the city of New York. However, 75% of the students who are in the tag and gifted program are white and Asian. Many people argue and state that the reason why a lot of these people are getting those is because they have the resources to buy tutors that can prep for the actual testing. And unfortunately, the young people who are the Black and brown students are at a disadvantage. That's what de Blasio is ultimately saying is the reason and rationale. The person who is actually, now to mind you, for over 8 years, he was not for doing this, and they had multiple reasons for not doing so. It just so happens a year ago, he appointed a school a chancellor by the name of Maisha Porter, who convinced him that this was a need and a necessity to get rid of this programming. Now, the unfortunate situation is that there is not a good alternative. Now, he has a plan, but the alternative doesn't work. Now, here's the key, though. He can introduce it, but it's going to be up to the next mayor, Eric Adams, who will be the next mayor, to implement it. He has already made it very clear that he does not agree with it. What he does say, though, we should actually extend the talented gifted programming into the underfunded and the low income community so that those kids do have a chance. The question I have is, and we have a couple of educators on this panel, those of us who have worked and seen these tests and seen what is actually done. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think that we are expanding No Child Left Behind, or do you think we're literally leaving children behind by trying to not help children move forward?
I'm gonna hop in real quick because I know I'm not an educator, y'all are, so let me just give my little 2-piece amen. But no, I don't think that they should get rid of the programs. However, I do feel that they need to investigate county by county, area by area, whatever that looks like in New York. Why are Black and brown kids not meeting the requirements? Like, why don't they have the resources? Like, they need to investigate the why and then counter the why, combat the why, create some resources and programs to counter that why, in effort to bring more children of color into, again, the full percentage of it all. Because I read that same story, with majority of the classrooms in the gifted classes being majority white and Asians. And then this is more so geared towards like elementary school students, right? And so for me, like, just going back, if I can, into my kindergarten, first grade days, Lord, give me, the memory or whatever. Like, I feel like, when you that age, like, it's like a level playing field right there. Everybody has the ability to really get their minds molded, and that's just a time to be explorative and just really develop your education and your mindset and all that stuff. So I feel like, since they're so young and so green to it, like, why automatically just count them out? I just think that's unfair off the cuff. You get what I'm saying? So I think they just need to investigate.
And here's the thing: gifted programs are not the problem. It's the identification process, exactly as Kale said. Here's the reality of it. Here's the thing. You have a number of ways to screen for giftedness and talent development, and not every school system uses all the resources available. Some assessments are biased and have been shown to have a racial bias that is inherent, and so that's why you should have multiple measures. It also is not probably appropriate to think that you're going to have equal population-wise across the board for students, because giftedness is typically based on a percent of the population. 3% of Americans are going to be gifted. 3% of the white population, 3% of the Black population, 3% of the Asian population. And when you have more white people than you have Black people in the United States, you may have more white people who are gifted in the school system. It's not apples to apples. That's not the correlation. And people have to understand all those factors. With that, and again, we talked about, I don't know if elementary school is the right time to implement the program. I think that for some kids, yes, but not all kids, you should screen for giftedness every year from kindergarten all the way up to probably 6th grade to get the biggest range of not missing kids who are gifted and some who have talent development that comes later in the process. I too was served by the gifted program in my home county. And again, it is a bell curve. Again, 3% of people are going to be gifted. 1% of people are going to be geniuses. And the fact that Bill de Blasio doesn't know and understand this really concerns me. And the fact that he is saying that gifted identification is a racial issue, but his kids were served to get the programs, make me look at him even more with a side eye, because maybe he's saying the only reason that his kids were gifted is because they're half white. That there are a lot of problems with Bill de Blasio was saying and what he's doing. But I promise you, there's some idiots in this world who are seeing this nonsense on Fox News and who are ready to run with it as a way of, like, again, trying to end the issue. And if you really want to fix the program and fix the problems, you need to really educate about how policies exist that disenfranchise Black and brown people. That's a part of really helping identify gifted kids. Many Black and brown gifted children are ignored in this, not even referred to be tested because of issues that are deemed behavioral.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that's part of the problem. Ending the gifted program isn't the answer, but ending how you misidentify or fail to identify, that's the problem.
I think that the process is really subjective because one of the measures is motivation, and that's something that teachers completely up to the teacher how they rate a child in terms of motivation. And that's how a lot of teachers end up docking students of color for behavior by saying, well, this child can't act right long enough to be a part of this program. Unpopular opinion, as someone who was a part of the Talented and Gifted program and someone who has taught and served on the Talented and Gifted testing committee, I'm not a big proponent for the Talented and Gifted program. It's not something that I was a huge fan of. I think that it too early on, it starts to set this culture of elitism, even from elementary school within the students. And I think that a good alternative to a Talented and Gifted program would be a personalized learning initiative across the nation. And that way you're not taking certain students out of the classroom and saying, well, you're the best and brightest in this classroom, so let me take you and give you a different experience, but rather honing in on all of the skills, talents, and gifts of all children, because all students have talents and gifts, and figuring out how you can hone in on those to make the learning experiences that they're receiving adequate for them in that classroom. So I've never been a big proponent or a big supporter of pulling children out of a classroom and saying they're going to get a different learning experience. Same thing with charter schools. That's the other reason why I have such a big issue with charter schools. That's a conversation for another day. If there is a better option in my community for learning, then why isn't that option available to all the children? And so I think that it is something that we need to look at, but it isn't something you just take away completely without putting something else in place. Personalized learning is something that has been researched for years, is being very effective in Fulton County and in other counties. I think that other places need to take a look at it and see how they can utilize the principles and the tenets of personalized learning in order to meet the needs of all students.
I don't agree. I was pulled, and it was the highlight of my week. Gifted children oftentimes feel extremely isolated in general ed environments, just like and in the same way that that students who have identified learning needs get differentiated, targeted instruction. Gifted kids deserve that exact same amount of support because of the funding that's given to them, right? Federal funding is given to school systems for gifted education. The reason that money has been allocated is that gifted learners need a different type of learning experience to have their true potential met. And if I wouldn't have had pullouts, my educational experience would have been significantly lessened. That I will say that from my own personal experience.
I think we just said the same thing, Zach, but instead of me saying that the gifted students need a different type of experience, I said all of the students need a different type of experience.
No, I agree. I agree that all students do. I'm just saying that
personalized learning is that you meet the needs of all of the students, and you don't have to.
I know a lot about personal. I was in one of the state's first personalized learning districts as a literacy coordinator, and I wrote the educational competencies for the Henry County school system's K-12. So I get personalized learning in ways that many educators don't get it. Sure. But what I'm also saying, though, is that for young, gifted children, when they're pulled out and put together, that experience for many of them is a socialization that they really, really need. Now, for me as a child, I was very extroverted and very social, but a number of my gifted peers were not. And some of them didn't really come alive or engage or really be truly a part of the social process until they were with their other gifted peers, because it can be extremely isolating to be a kid in a class that no one understands. It can be really difficult.
I do want to really quickly hop in because the key word for me that Darius just said is elitism. And I think that really goes to show when you are in high school and you are AP, you're gifted, you're honors, you're IB, and then you have the general high school students or what have you. Me, myself, being the AP honors student, I can distinctively remember a clear-cut difference in my graduating senior class between, oh, well, the AP kids can do this, but the general students can't do that. You get to the commons area, you get to the cafeteria, who's sitting at what table, you get to the assembly halls, you get to the field trips, who's privileged to do this, who's always in the principal's office, who's always not in the principal's office, who's setting the standard. And you saw, you didn't really, well, I guess you could feel and see the division in regards to privilege, if you will. And Lovejoy was an all-black school by the time I was down there in 07 or what have you. So this wasn't even, white, black, multiracial, nothing like that. So I do agree with Darius in terms of just the elitism part. I guess that's more social. if you will, just governing how you carry yourself, making sure you're still connected and not seeing yourself as being the better. So I think when you bring high school into that conversation, it gets a little
But Vince, that is a good argument that people make all the time. But do athletes not get treated differently than other students in the school system? Do highly talented musical students not get treated differently? Of course they do. Schools give a huge, at the secondary level, a huge value is placed on athleticism. That same level of value should be placed on the students who are academically talented. Here's the thing that goes back to what Darius said earlier. Every single person alive has a gift, and a good school system identifies that talent and that gift, no matter the child, and they cultivate the gift. Academically gifted children should have the exact same ability as athletes, as talented singers, as musicians and actors to highlight what makes them special and highlight the gift that God gave them. They should not shrink themselves down out of fear of coming across as elite to their peers. They should have their time to shine, just like athletes have their time to shine, just like singers have their time to shine. Every single person should have their time to shine.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of them shrinking themselves off of being fear. I think it's the matter of them accelerating themselves because they see themselves as the better and carrying themselves off of that. Now you walking around like your shit don't stink. That's what I'm talking about.
And that's not even necessarily what I'm speaking to. When I speak of elitism, I'm mainly, and even more so than the students, it's the parents. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had parents badger me about getting their child tested into talent and gifted program. And to your point, Zach, it's about more than just being academically inclined. It's also about being creative. It's also about being able to express yourself in different ways or having different talents. And so a lot of people just automatically assume that you could be a straight A student and not be tested into the talented and gifted program. And so I think that rather than creating that experience outside of the classroom, it should be incumbent upon all teachers to create that type of experience that meet the needs of all students right there in that classroom.
And the last point I want to make about this particular topic with this is the fact that I think we have continued. I think what happens is in our school system, first of all, one thing I want to say is number one, I don't think you can talk about doing any type of adjustment to the talented and gifted program until you really also talk about the adjustment to the SST 504 and IEP programming, because that in itself, you have a percentage of students right now, the way the state is written, you only have a percentage of your students in your school in that program. But what happens with those students who unfortunately get pushed out because, we only can keep a certain percentage. And so now we're perpetuating this issue. That's number one. The second thing we're dealing with is, unfortunately, we're still using this equity versus equality thing, even in the educational system. The issue is we're still trying to push equality. There still has to be equity in the educational system. That is what's going to change the system when you stop looking at it from an equality aspect and you provide equity. Lastly, Zach, if you could throw back up that what you had with de Blasio one last time, this statement here, when he says, we are going to train teachers and prepare schools to actually reach your child and bring your gifts and abilities to what would be ignored. This is a great statement. However, this is the issue we ran into when Common Core came out. And all of a sudden, what happened was you threw Common Core out there. And what happened was the reason why Common Core, though in some aspects could have worked for some students, you had teachers who were untrained and unable to actually effectively teach a program that, now, and these students are being now assessed upon a program or a curriculum that teachers absolutely could not actually train them on. And so now you have a system that has failed them, and you haven't actually had a chance to even evaluate it or assess it effectively because you haven't even provided the teachers provided them the resources that they need to help these children. Why? Because you created an educational system that was based upon equality and funding rather than being equitable for that child. And so this is one of the main reasons why I have an issue with this concept of student focused versus student driven, because when you start doing this whole student focused concept, I believe in some facets it's not enough. You're I think cherry picking what students you're going to work for. Whereas if you do student driven, which I believe goes back to what Darius was saying, and Zach for that matter, what you're now doing is putting the children in the driver's seat, and you're saying, okay, I'm your GPS system. How am I going to get you to where you're going? You tell me what you want to do. You tell me, and my job is to help you get there. I think that is what's going to help this educational system, and not us telling these kids, this is what's going to make you successful. This is how you're going to get there. And because of that, that's why we keep having these issues in such like these gifted programs and these special education programs.
And student choice and voice and also student agency are two of the major tenets of personalized learning. And that is the type of experience that talented and gifted students are getting when they get pulled out into their classrooms.
Many of them are, but again, by federal law, they have to get above and beyond services. And I don't want to see our talented and gifted students not get what they're legally bound to get. To not give them that is like giving a student who has a special educational need, not giving them what they need, because gifted and talented students are special education students as well, and they deserve to have their academic needs met. Very few people fight for their rights.
Everyone deserves it, is what I'm saying. Not just the talented and gifted students, not just the special ed students. Everyone.
That's just. But listen to me, okay, Darius. I get what you're saying, but what you're saying is also like if I'm special ed, right, and I can't read, and I need more time and more support in reading, you're saying that no, I shouldn't get more time because everyone deserves it. I'm boiling down your argument because when you're saying to not give gifted kids above and beyond services, then you also are saying to not give students who are struggling academically their above and beyond services. Every child absolutely deserves to have a high quality education. Every child. But some children, because of their exceptionality, have different needs and greater needs. And that's why the law protects them.
What I'm saying is every student deserves above and beyond services, whether they are on the lower achieving spectrum, if they're on the higher achieving spectrum, or if they're just on a bubble and they could go up or go down based on the service that you give them. All students deserve above and beyond service, every one of them. And I feel that you can do that.
Don't agree, or we just don't understand each other's argument.
You say what?
Either we just don't agree, or we just don't understand each other's argument.
That's fine.
But I'm someone who takes gifted education extremely serious. It is an element of education where I feel a lot of people have diminished it. And as a result of it, we are losing our brightest and best minds and the opportunity to cultivate those brightest and best minds, especially in Black and brown communities. I want to see more Black and brown kids identified as being gifted. I want to see those talents cultivated, and I want to see them pushed to be the very best they can be. And again, that doesn't mean I don't want to see it for every child. But what I am saying is that this is a population of children who are vulnerable and who are having their needs neglected. And what I'm hearing is conversation that says, I support this neglect. That's just what I'm hearing. But with that being said, what's our Black
I don't know where you hear that from. With that being said, what
is tonight? Black History Fact of the Day.
So after dragging all the HBCUs tonight, I just wanted us to take a moment to highlight the great work and the reason why HBCUs were founded in the first place. On this day in 1894, the Freedmen's Hospital School of Nursing was founded for African Americans by a Black surgeon named Dr. Daniel Hill Williams. This hospital was linked to the Freedmen's Bureau. That was set up by slaves or formerly enslaved people and their descendants during the Civil War, and they were trained to be nurses. And in 1967, Congress transferred the Freedmen's Hospital to Howard University, where it converted into the Howard University College of Nursing in 1969. And up to 1973, about 1,700 Black nurses were created through the formation of this program in conjunction with the Freedmen's Bureau and eventually Howard University. So shout out to the Freedmen's Hospital School of Nursing.
So is Howard the oldest HBCU in America?
I doubt it.
No, okay. Who is well, it seems like it because they still have the oldest mold growing in the dorms.
I think it was Livingston.
Livingston is our oldest.
Isn't it Livingston? Cheney University. I'm sorry, Cheney.
It's like in the Midwest.
That's great. Again, I love our Black History Facts. I had no idea that history. So again, thank you for sharing. We are doing the after show where we're going to talk about the babies live. Okay, I know y'all real concerned about the babies live with Dan and Lee, as well as look at what has happened with Astro world, and now 165 victims who have filed lawsuits. Talk a little bit about your favorite, everyone's favorite, Lil Nas X, Man of the Year for GQ magazine, as well as his upcoming appearance on the Maury Show. A little bit about the Real Housewives of Potomac reunion and the students who are going to walk out on Dave Chappelle. So please, Lamont, check us out on the after show. We do this on IG Live. You can see right here below our IGs. You can go to any of our IGs. I think everyone's joining tonight except Dr. Pickett, who said he had a prior engagement. I don't know what that prior engagement could be at this hour, but
no, I have to wake up in the morning because I have to be at a school because we adopted schools for Thanksgiving, and so I have to be there early in the morning. And thank you all for participating in that as well.
I thought you were going to Popeyes.
No, I don't. No. I'm going to Chick-fil-A right after.
Well, I see. I mean, I know that you guys eat Chick-fil-A you eat Chick-fil-A. You must eat it every night. Because
I have not been eating meat for 45 days, and so I'm okay. So,
that's right.
That's good. Well, and to each his own, with your, Chick-fil-A, it wins. It clearly wins. I mean, you love it. You love it. So with that being said, gentlemen, I will see you guys shortly on Instagram Live.